Hello, and welcome to the show Wellness with Hypnosis. My name is Ed Martin, and this show Wellness with Hypnosis is presented to you by the Path Foundation. And the mission of the Path Foundation is to help people improve the quality and the length of their lives through the effective use of positive suggestion hypnosis. We've been presenting this show for a number of years now, and we try to answer your questions about hypnosis and about the powers of the mind. And some of the questions that have been asked of us over the years have been about how hypnosis can work with habits and habit control, and most especially the habit of smoking. We've worked with many people who have had the habit of smoking, and I personally have worked with about 8,000 people in the past 7 or 8 years to help them stop smoking and to stop smoking completely and permanently. And in doing so, we've found out a number of things about the habit patterns that we have and about the way our mind works. We found out quite a bit about what part of it is the addiction, what part of it is the mental and the physiological addiction, and what part of it is the psychological addiction or the psychological component. Now, so we can really think of a habit as being two parts. The habit itself, which is the repetitive action that our mind goes through, which is almost like a zombie where we do something without even thinking. The other part, which is the craving or the urge or the need to do something, and it's like a physiological or a physical component. Now, many people that smoke say that they are addicted to nicotine. And I've had several people say, but there is no such thing as a nicotine addiction. And I've had several doctors say the same thing, that the addiction is not physiological, but psychological. And I've had others that say that, yes, the addiction is the physical addiction, and that there's a craving and that there's a physical need. Well, what we have tried to do is we've tried to work with people to prove or disprove either theory, to see which is the actual truth, whether it's a physical or a psychological addiction, and if it's an addiction, what it consists of, and then how we can work with it. Because we have been successful in working with people that have had all kinds of addictions, chemical addictions, alcoholic addictions, addictions to overwork, addictions to cleanliness, addictions to hand washing, and all kinds of things that are considered addictions. And we've had successes working with hypnotherapy. Now, the question then is what exactly can hypnosis do, and how does it work to help people overcome this compulsion, whatever it is, whether it's just a habit or whether it's an addiction. And the technique that we have found the most effective with most people is to use the techniques of hypnotic regression. So what happens is we try to teach people how to go into a deep hypnotic state, and then when they're in this deep trance state, while they're in the trance state, we have them regress using hypnotic regression, go back in time and find the first experience, the seed experience, what we call the initial sensitizing event that caused whatever it is, the addiction, the compulsion, the habit, or whatever. Find that first experience and release it while they're in hypnosis. Now, releasing it, a lot of people are afraid of it. They're worried about going back to something that they don't want to look at. They're afraid that they're going to uncover something and bring back some really negative emotions or something, maybe some abuse that happened as a child or something. What actually happens is the opposite of that. This is not like psychoanalysis. You don't bring it up to the conscious mind. But working in deep trance, what happens is the subconscious mind can find it, release it, and then reprogram the subconscious with the positive, whatever the positive action is. So, for example, one of the smokers that I worked with, she said that the reason that she started smoking was because all of her friends did, and she started smoking when she was in high school. And she said it's peer pressure, that's her reason for smoking. And but she tried to quit and tried to quit over and over again, and every time she would stop, she maybe stopped for a month or a week or 3 days, and every time then something would trigger it and she'd go back into it. She'd start smoking again. So we took her back to the seed experience, the first thing that happened that caused her to start smoking. So she went back to the time when she was a very young child, probably 2 or 3 years old, and her father smoked. She loved him, and she admired him, and she watched him smoke. Then she went to a time when she was 11 years old, and when she was 11, her mother and father got a divorce, and her father left. And when he left, he met another lady, and they eventually got married. But the other lady, the girlfriend that he met, was a smoker, and she smoked like a chimney. So the girl at 11 years old, to get her father's love and affection back, thought that she needed to smoke in order to have that love and that acceptance. And so whenever she felt unloved, or if she felt rejected, or she felt unwanted, she'd have to smoke. And that smoking then, to her subconscious mind, was satisfying that in some way. She was also identifying with her father, who smoked when she was a very young child. And those were deep-seated, unknown conscious reasons. Her conscious mind didn't recognize that and didn't relate those as the conscious reason for her smoking. She thought it was all peer pressure. After she'd released those two things, and the peer pressure and several other things that were causing her to smoke, some emotions and feelings that were causing it, after she released that, then she agreed to stop smoking, and she stopped smoking permanently, completely. It took 2 sessions. Now that's the average. Usually it takes 1 or 2 sessions to stop smoking if you use these techniques of hypnotic regression to try to find and release the psychological reasons. Now, in her case, when she stopped, there was no physiological withdrawal. And we talked about it. She had no urges, no compulsions. She didn't turn into an ogre. She wasn't irritable or anything like that. And she was typical of many, many of the clients that we've worked with. When they stop in this form, they don't have any of the psychological withdrawal symptoms that seem to appear with some of the other techniques. Well, what it appears to be, though, is that when we use the hypnosis and use positive suggestion as the conditioning form, and we give the right form of suggestion, not negative, but all positive suggestion, when we use this kind of suggestion to the subconscious mind, then even though those physiological changes have been made in the brain's chemistry, it still doesn't affect the person. They don't have the withdrawal symptoms. So there may be the physiological component, there may be the physical withdrawal, but the mind doesn't see it, doesn't accept it, and so the technique of withdrawing and stopping and changing the habit appears to work without any negative effects whatsoever. For more information about hypnosis, call our Birmingham number, 205-322-PASS.